Hi, I'm Donna McKechnie, and this is my life in the theater. Okay. Ta-da! Ooh, okay. How to succeed in business without really trying. My first Broadway show. A little ballet girl got a job, finally got a job auditioning for Broadway, and had no idea, hadn't seen a Broadway show yet. And I remember very clearly in rehearsals for this show with Robert Morse, Bob Fosse was the choreographer, the second choreographer. Gwen Verdon was our dance captain, if you can believe that. She was between jobs. Of course, she was a great star, but she was helping him out with this new show. A. Burroughs, the director, Cy Feuer, Ernie Martin were the producers. They were there every day, practically. Frank Lesser was the composer, and he was there every day. And I just realized that what a unique thing, all of these people coming together in the room and telling a story with song and text and movement, because I was just a ballet dancer at that point in time, just struggling in New York trying to get work. So this opened a whole world for me, and I remember this clearly thinking, if I save my money and learn how to sing and act, then maybe I can have a career that's longer than a dancer's life. And I remember that very distinctly, and it just was a whole new world for me in a beginning, really. And that's what I did. I became a professional student. And this was a great show, Pulitzer Prize. Gosh, I could go on and on. It was the first show. My parents came to New York to see it, and were so worried about me living in New York because I was still a teenager. And when they saw the show, I think it helped them relax a little bit. And I just loved New York City then. It was just a great place to be. I knew nothing. I was very naive, but it didn't matter. I remember that Frank Lesser was this wonderful composer. Just wonderful songs. I didn't know it then, but I remember he was my first vocal coach in terms of training me to say the words, belt them out. And he said, he was like this Damon Runyon character, and he had this cigar, and always with a cigar, and he would say, honey, just remember, the gesture first, then sing. And I don't know, and I thought, well, that sounds interesting. And if you think of it, I've always done it, because I don't know if it meant that you make the gesture and so you pull focus, so if when you sing, they know who's singing. I think of it as an impulse in life. When you have a feeling to move, you do the gesture and then everything follows, the impulse to move. So I think that, I don't know if anyway, I don't want to think about that too much, but that was one very interesting thing about him. And I loved him. He was such a friendly, warm person with very soulful eyes. Gosh, and A. Burroughs was very funny, wonderful writer. And Cy Feuer and Ernie Martin, these were the men who were big, producers on Broadway. They had done Guys and Dolls. They were, just fabulous people who were there every day, if not every day, they were there every week, in and out, taking care of us. And everybody dressed to the nines. Nobody wore rehearsal clothes. I mean, the dancers did, but everybody else wore suits, if you can believe it. It was just a great experience working with Bob Fosse and Gwen Verdon, who I was so in awe of her, of course. And I was very shy, so I just tried to work as hard as I could, to do anything to please them. He gave us an assignment that even though we were in the ensemble, or chorus, they called it then, that we had to, even if we didn't have a character name, we had to write a one-page history of who we were and who we knew in the office and what the relationships were. So that, and Gwen would say, You know, you always have to know where you're coming from, exactly be specific about it, and where you're going every time you enter the, you know, from the wings. And that kind of thing for a kid who had no experience, it was like getting all of these important, and watching, just watching everybody. Trying to think, yeah, it was a 2-year run, and it was I was lucky. I was very blessed to have a big hit show. The first time out. Ooh, okay. All right. I have so many fond memories of the education of Hyman Kaplan. Well, it was just a wonderful piece. There's also a very difficult memory. I don't know when exactly it was when we opened. It was the opening night, I believe. It hit me just hard thinking about it. The night Martin Luther King was shot was our opening night. And I had a little TV in my dressing room, and I heard the speech earlier on, and we were all very much involved in the civil rights movement, my friends and I. And when the Mayor Lindsay, got up and left the theater at intermission, and we found out about it later, after the show. So that was a very, very hard time, but one of the things that I'm very grateful for about being able to do theater is in these times you can really make a connection and find a creative way. If you're saying something through the piece, which we could with the education of Hyman Kaplan, it was a wonderful way to deal with it, and the show didn't run, and I'm not saying that that's why, but it was Tom Bosley and just a great cast of people, Barbara Minkus, some great songs. And sometimes, you know, this had a life later, thanks to Lonnie Price, the wonderful director, many years later. But anyway, that was my experience. It changed me, and had quite an effect on people at that time. Okay, here we go. Promises, promises. Well, you know, of course, when I think of this show, I think of the people involved. I was so grateful to be able to work with Michael Bennett on his first Broadway show, his first big hit. And David Merrick was a wonderful producer, and Robert Moore, the director, was fantastic, and Jerry Orbach was just a prince, as they say. He was just a magnificent performer and a person, and just really grounded. And that's when shows would go out of town to try out. And Promises, Promises brings a lot of great memories to me. It was a very exciting time. It was, I think of the people especially. David Merrick produced it, a wonderful producer. Bob Moore directed it. Michael Bennett was choreographing his first big, hit show, and his first big hit on Broadway. And it was very exciting to be there. Because this was a story, of course, most people know of The Apartment, the film, and Jerry Orbach was the star. And when we would go out of town in those days, I think they still do, but many times the best material was developed with the out-of-town audience. And the critics also out of town were very much a part of that process. And it was a very nice thing to go to Boston or New Haven and try things out and see how we're doing, and the audience was there. They got excited because they were part of the process too, and they knew it. Okay, so getting back to Promises, the show was a half an hour too long, and Bob Moore, the director, had to cut it. I actually was excited because it was my first role as a singer. I mean, a singing part. It was not a dancing part. And I was very proud of myself because since that first show, How to Succeed, I wanted to do more acting and singing and really step out more. These smaller parts, these secretaries were cut. Anybody that had just a few scenes was cut. And I was going to be, there were 3 secretaries and I was one of them. And I went, oh my gosh, I'm going to be out of a job. But just in the nick of time, Michael said, I need you to do a big dance number, the end of the first act. So my job was saved, thanks to Michael, and he needed a character to be a centerpiece. The first version of it was really, really bad. And Michael was, as his first show, he was trying to really work with truth, and we were supposed to be 3 secretaries that were making up our own song and dance called Turkey Lurkey Time, and he wanted to do it as if we made it up ourselves. And the dancers had to push these 4 desks together like this, and we would get up there and we did this song and this silly choreography as if we non-dancers did it. And I remember looking out in the audience, and it was truly like Springtime for Hitler, you know, in the movie. Everybody was going. And Michael was in the back of the theater seeing what a bomb it was and how truthful he was trying to make it and realistic. And they're all like this. And he's running back and forth behind the orchestra seats, and he's going, I can fix it, I can fix it, I know what to do, I know what to do. And he and Bob Avian went to their hotel room, and there's a little mirror on the closet, and they got into their dancer poses, and they did Turkey Lurkey Time overnight. They brought their choreography, their staging in the next day, and we learned it, the 3 of us, by York Lee, Margot Sappington, and myself. And that was it. It became a big production number, and of course it made sense to the audience and to everyone because it was a beautiful, exciting backdrop to this very devastating news that the Jerry Orbach character found out, and he's got this crazy drunken Christmas party behind him. So that was that, and we were a big hit, and I had no idea that it would be played every Thanksgiving for the last 50 years, but it's okay, no complaints. Just a great time, a great show. And the icing on the cake was that I was invited to go to London to do it, to open the show there, and that was thrilling for me. That was my first trip to perform in Europe and London, and I have lifelong friends that I still see to this day that I met, and it was just a great time. And also the London audiences had never seen this kind of choreography before, really, and it was that edgy, very exciting, well, it was Michael Bennett, and just sophisticated, smart, funny, and it was a thrill of my lifetime, and that was Promises. Oh my gosh. You know, I never think of these things. You know, in our business, we get a job and we do it, and you know, you make great friends, and then you have to say goodbye to them. It's always painful, and you hope that you work together again. So I've learned to always think forward and the next thing. And I know Hal Prince said something like that, and I identified with that. You know, it's the next thing. And I don't live in the past until today. I'm going through it all. Oh gosh, I could laugh and cry at the same time with this show. Company, look at me. I'm just full of feeling for this very special show. And with these very special people, Stephen Sondheim, I remember that first day, that first reading, and you know, I had done, my first job was, well, my first singing role was Philia, and a funny thing happened on the way to the Forum, the national tour. This was before Company, and that was Stephen Sondheim's first Broadway show as both composer and lyricist. And Company was a show that he, this was later of course, that he was so proud of. And I love this score so much. I never tire of it. It's the only score of all the shows I've done that I can really listen to. And Hal Prince, Michael Bennett again, Terry Ralston, Pamela Myers, who sang for her audition Little Green Apples, you know, that pop song. And Stephen Sondheim asked her if she wrote it. He'd never heard the song before. And she said, no, I didn't write it. But he loved her and created this number for her. Very special people. We went to London. It was the first time, I mean, Hal Prince made theater history by flying, I think with the exception of maybe Susan Browning. And that's when Julia Mackenzie, a wonderful actress, a star in London, came and replaced her. But he flew the whole company to London to perform. Elaine Stritch, oh my gosh, Charles Kimbrough, George Coe. And it was a very exciting time, and it was very exciting. The reviews in New York were very mixed. I mean, it was very different. This show was cinematic in its presentation. One thing flowing, one scene flowing into the next and the next. And there was this incredible number that was very hard to find. I'm always having that trouble, you know, with Michael's work, it seemed. It's never, the first pass is like not working and the second, you know, works. And we had that same problem in Boston. But anyway, I'm jumping around. London, the audiences in London loved this show right from the get-go. The reviews were fantastic. They liked that it was an adult-themed musical. It was edgy for them, and they loved that. The audience just was different. And now, of course, to see it come back, and Sondheim giving it his blessing when this company, this last production was so wonderful. Very different, but to hear that score again, and it was directed so well, and everybody was great in it. It was just wonderful. What else can I say about this? Oh yeah, my number was almost cut. And I wrote about this in my book, about how I was on stage and it was going to be cut, I felt. And I was having a chat with, well, a confrontation with Harold Prince, and I was begging him to please, you know, fix it and you know, make it change the music. It was too much of a rock and roll number, you know, with the heavy, you know, rhythm, and it was all one note. The dance number was called Tick-Tock. It was really a one-note thing, and it was not good. And I had this feeling that it was going to be cut. Initially, the two numbers that were cut, as I'm now remembering, were Pam's number, another 100 people was cut, and Tick-Tock, the Tick-Tock dance was cut out of town in Boston. And Hal was such a gentleman, you know, such a wonderful person. He took each of us into the lobby with his arm around our shoulder and, you know, gave us this, you know, talk and saying, look, I'm going to cut the number, but it might go in, you know, a different place, but don't worry, you know, we're going to try to fix the show. So we were both, he did this for both of us, and we were both like, you know, very anxious. And after that show, I thought, it's going to be cut. I appealed to him And I said, we can change the music, make it more like a reprise and bring in other songs. And Sondheim heard this. He came over and he said, I don't want reprises in this show. And I am so life and death at this point. I start arguing with both of them and making this pleading my case and saying, look, the show needs it. I think I said something like that. Horrific. I can't believe I said it, but I did. The show needs it. And Hal said, it's half hour. Go upstairs and get ready for the show. And I actually said this, I am not leaving this stage until you tell me that you're going to fix it. And he looked at me and said, I'll fix it. Go get your makeup on. And I went, okay. And makes me so emotional in a very good way. There's just so many wonderful things about that, you know, what he did and how he produced, how he directed. And I'm very grateful, if you can imagine. The next day, they called David Shire to come in from his wedding, his honeymoon, I think, 4 days into his honeymoon. And of course, I don't think his wife she was in the orchestra, empty theater. I don't think she was very happy, but they wanted him to redo the arrangement. And Michael was going to redo the dance number. And we were there from I think something like 12 noon to 12 midnight, you know. Bobby Thomas on drums, who always worked with Michael. And we reconstructed this whole number again. And thank God. I'm very grateful that we did. And it worked. And Pam's number went back in, of course, which is one of my favorite numbers, another 100 people. Just a great time. And yeah. Any questions? Here we are on the town. Wonderful. Leonard Bernstein. Gosh, Ron Field, Comden and Green. It was just a wonderful, wonderful show. The music was sensational. I mean, it's been brought back a few times because it's just a fun story of these three sailors on the town. And I think, yeah, like Jerome Robbins' ballet, and I think the movie came first. Yes, of course it did. And then the show, and then we were a revival. I don't know which one. But it was just a great thing to work with. Again, wonderful, wonderul people. And there's a special story here in that the show was struggling. We were in New York, and it was February, and it was a very difficult time for tickets. And I've never, before or since, experienced this. We all met. We were told to come down to the basement under the stage. And musicians were there, stagehands, writers, creators, the cast. And the producers asked us all to take a pay cut to get through these couple weeks. That never happened before or since. And everybody, the musicians, said yes. We all said yes. We all loved doing that show so much. It didn't help it. It maybe helped it for a couple weeks, but that was it. And it was sad. It's one of those stories where it's beautiful, the people are wonderful, there's so much great things in it, and doesn't work. But it's great material and it keeps coming back. So yeah, that's on the town. And oh gosh, this is going to take a long time, so I better a chorus line. What can I say to you? 50 years ago, I think, yeah. It was one of the greatest times in my life, having the opportunity to work with Michael Bennett again and developing a piece that he had talked about for many years, of something that he wanted to do about dancers. He said, I want you to be in it. And I said, great, because I knew any time working with Michael Bennett was going to be a fantastic experience and just the best, he was a visionary. And I said, hurry up, because I'm getting older every year. We've been talking about it for 3 years. I was already 30, which is up there for a dancer. Everybody has written books about it and how it was unique in its development, how we all sat. We were invited to a dance class that Wayne Salento taught one night, very late, and after the class we all sat in this room, and Michael was there to just talk to us about this project. And there was a reel-to-reel in a very big tape machine in the middle of the rug, on the rug, and we all sat in a circle. And there's been much written about it, but essentially Michael asked the 3 questions that Zach asked in the play, asked the dancers auditioning. Tell me your name, where you were born, and why did you become a dancer, that kind of thing. And that's how we started, and we just went around the room, and everybody talked about those beginnings. And it was incredible, an incredible night. It was like, all night. And we did it again the following week. And Michael had all of this material and wanted to develop it. He wanted to do something on his own without co-direction or co-choreography. He wanted to just have his own, stamp on it. And he needed that help. He needed a champion. He needed a producer. So he went to Joe Papp. And Joe Papp, listened to like a few minutes, not even that much. And he said, I'll do it. I'll give you the Newman Theater, and you can develop this. And so that's how it started. And then it just was this great experience of, honestly, as wonderful as the show is now and how far-reaching its success and popularity, nobody knew then what it would be. Nobody could know. Excuse me, but there are many times that it was really not good. And to be there, to see the courage that Michael had to develop this piece and not be good, and then have to solve the problems and take another road and try this. And we were all very excited to be there with him to help him do that. And we were all discovering, and one of the wonderful things about working with him was that his collaboration. He encouraged collaboration, and he relied on it. And that was very exciting. So I'm jumping to the show opens, and it wasn't even advertised, but people would, go up to the public theater and say, I want to see this, and they say, well, this is sold out, but there's this show that's having previews tonight called A Chorus Line. Oh, really? Okay, since I'm down here. And they would go see, the show, and they had no idea what they were seeing. And those first audiences, because the theater was like, I don't even know how many, 100 seats? 200? No, couldn't be more. Maybe 200, 150, I don't know. They didn't know what they were seeing. And when they heard the rehearsal piano and these dancers facing the mirror, working it out, and then he says, turn around, face the front, a 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you hear this full orchestra playing. It was magical and powerful. The lights changed. All of these incredible artists working in the design of it, Robin Wagner, Theone Aldridge, Theron Musser, all of these people were fantastic. And then the rest is history, as they say. We had a very big success down there. We moved to Broadway, and it's the only opening night on Broadway that I wasn't nervous, because it wasn't even like an opening night. It was like a celebration. Everybody on stage we were so happy that we were there. And the audience had seen the show already, so they were there to celebrate this move. It was just a very unique experience for me, and wonderful. Okay, I leave the show, I call the litany of loss in my life, and I developed a very serious case of rheumatoid arthritis where I could barely walk, let alone dance. And on the road, and I was living in Los Angeles and didn't know what to do. I found a doctor who was alternative medicine. That was a long time ago, and when they were using all these drugs and injections and everything, and I thought I can always do that, but I think I need to try alternative medicine first to see what I can do to help myself. And I found this doctor in New Jersey, Dr. Sam Getland, and he put me on a yes and no list for food and behavior. And okay, I finally got better, where I could move and work. And one day, Bjork Lee calls me, 1985, and she says, I want you to open the show in Tokyo and go do a national tour of a chorus line. And I went, oh, I can't. I mean, I haven't danced in 10 years. And she said, well, I'll give you 3 months. And she hung up on me. And it was a wonderful incentive to get back into shape. I was doing television, but it wasn't, you know, it was nice. I loved living in my house, and I had a yard, barbecue, but I really missed theater. This was a great opportunity. So I got myself into shape. We did a wonderful national tour, Tokyo, Paris, and then the Cassie in New York got pregnant. So Joe Papp, knowing that I was doing the show, called me and said, would you come and replace Cassie and do it for 8 weeks? And I said, sure thing. I went back to the show, and this was 10 years later, the same production, different cast, except for me. And I thought it was such a personal victory to be dancing again that I thought, I have to write a book about this, not about me. I wasn't interested in writing about my personal experiences as much as I was to tell my story so that people would know that they never have to lose their hope, and that they shouldn't let anyone tell them their destiny, as so many doctors did to me, so you won't be able to walk anymore. And I thought, this is really powerful. It's much bigger than me, the story, so I have to get it out there. Well, it took me a while to get it out, but I finally did, and I was really happy when it was published in 2007. And now that I'm in Wicked, and these young dancers, you know, are coming to me and saying, oh, would you sign my book? And I go, oh my God, I said, I'm warning you, it's a cautionary tale, you know, but I'm happy to sign it. It's a wonderful thing to be able to share things with them, with you.
What's the book called?
Oh, Time Steps, My Musical Comedy Life. It's an ironic title. Anyway, so moving right along here, we got, oh my God, this Sweet Charity, Gwen Verdon, Bob Fosse. When I saw it in 1964, oh my God, it was like she was everybody's idol, and still is. And when I was back in Chorus Line, this was 1986, and by the way, I stayed longer than 8 weeks. It was more like 8 months, because I guess she didn't want to come back. She had a baby. It was a great time. And Bob Fosse came to see me without me knowing it for like 5 times. And he wanted to make sure that, you know, I had that endurance, because he then called me and invited me to be the lead in his last production of Sweet Charity, which had reopened on Broadway, and everybody loved it. Now he's taking a national tour. And that was really a fantastic time to work with him. She taught me the role, every step, every thought, every nuance. She fed me. And there's nothing like that. That's like someone giving you a part of their soul. It meant so much to me. Every dancer will know what I mean when I say that. I don't think I ever took a break. I mean, I was just so eager to do it, because she said to me, if you can get through the first act, you'll be able to do the show, because that's the hardest one. And we finally got to that point. Fosse came in later and started directing, and it was just a magical cast. Everybody was handpicked. And of course, the night we opened at the National Theater in Washington, D.C., he left rehearsal. He'd been rehearsing us all day, and everybody was tired, and we thought, you know, doesn't he realize we're going to open tonight? And he ran out of the theater. Gwen followed him. I found this out later with everyone else, because he never would leave a rehearsal, and it turns out they went back to the hotel. He died in her arms. She was with him. And I remember coming off stage. We didn't know. And Cy Coleman was in my dressing room, and he said, sit down, I have some news. And I said, well, tell me. He said, Bobby died. And I couldn't hear that. You know, I thought, Bobby? Who's Bobby? Bobby, the stage manager? Do we have a Bobby? And then he said, Bob Fosse. And by then, I could hear everybody. Everybody was having a reaction. Yeah, that was terrible. But the thing that when I teach master classes, or when I go to colleges and talk about the theater departments, I talk about this day, because before he left the theater, he sat us down and gave us like this, well, it was more like fatherly advice. He said, save your money. When you get up in the morning, you know, ask yourself, how can you be a better performer? Don't compete with anyone, just yourself. And he said, and not just a performer, but ask yourself, how can you be a better person? And we're all sitting here, you know, in the orchestra together. We're opening that night, and he's giving us all of this encouragement, good advice. And he said, and when you have a difficulty, when you have a real problem or a conflict, ask yourself, what is the important thing? And things like this, I mean, he went on and showed great affection for all of us. And I share that with students, because he was, you know, saying things that are very basic, and we too easily forget, especially about if you have a long career, or you want a long career, it's too difficult to have the rejection daily and the competition, and to put yourself in that place. You have to just work for yourself with all of that good intention and hard work, and compete with yourself. When you make choices to do at an audition, when you leave that room, you say, did I achieve what I set out to do? And if you did, then that's a good one, and move on. State Fair now. State Fair was a really wonderful show. It stands out as having, there was like everybody in the cast, it was like love personified. Everybody was just it was just a warm, I don't know, it's like the combination of people, and John Davidson was there. Andrea McCardle was the ingenue, and wonderful with that, her edginess, and so it wasn't sappy or anything. And it was just a great group of people who toured for 7 months and came back to Broadway. And I don't think it was publicized in the right way, whatever. They didn't have the money, whatever those problems are. It just didn't click at that time. But it was just a great, great experience. Oh, this is so beautiful. The Visit, Chita Rivera. Again, it brings so many warm memories, and you know, she was a beacon for me. Her career, I remember when I first came to New York, I played Bye Bye Birdie. Oh my God, that was really the first musical I saw. I was in How to Succeed, but I saw Bye Bye Birdie. I just sang along with her. I didn't know how to sing, but I just sang along with Cheetah, as so many people did. And she was my first voice coach, I should say. Getting to know her from working together, and we did TV together, some Tony Award shows. Everybody loved Cheetah because she was so lovable and there to enjoy everything that she could. And she gave us set the tone and the example of how you behave in a show, backstage, on stage, in rehearsal. And it's all about joy and love, and she told me that. She said, it's all about love. It's all it's about is love. John Doyle, as a director, I could never say no to, and he called me and said, would you stand by for Cheetah in The Visit? And I thought to myself, oh, I can't do that. I can't stand by. I can't. I'm too nervous. I need to be over-rehearsed. I cannot be in the wings and a moment's notice go on. I would faint. I couldn't do it. But you don't say no to John Doyle. I couldn't anyway, because I love him so much, and he's so talented. And then I thought, wait a minute, it's Cheetah. She's never going to be out. And she wasn't, and I counted on that. When we were when it was Tony Awards, and everybody was doing publicity, and she was up in the morning doing those early morning TV shows, publicizing The Visit, and then she'd do a show at night or a matinee. And that last week before the Tonys, her voice was like really going. And the night before we were to close, they came to my dressing room and they said, because I was there every night, but I loved it. It was wonderful. I had a great time with the cast, and I stayed in my dressing room, which overlooked the stage, if you can imagine that, at the Lyceum Theater. It's a wonderful room where you can stand over and see the whole stage. I watched her every night and just loved it. And they came to the dressing room and said, okay, put your wig on and your underwear because you might be going on any minute. And I went, no, I'm not. I'm not going to go on. But I thought, oh my God, maybe I am. So I got the wig on, the underwear, the makeup, and she was fine. She got through it. The next day I came in, but I had prepared myself. I took myself to dinner. It was between shows, and said, you can do this. You can do this. And that's how I left it. She was fine. She did the show. Okay. I come in the next day, and they say, I don't think she can get through it. She doesn't think she's coming off, and she doesn't. And I said, she's going to get through it. It's her last show. She's going to get through it. And of course she did. She had no voice. She talked, she spoke the words and was fantastic. It must have been really hard for her, but she did it, and I knew, and I was counting on that. But I knew she wouldn't, because who could, their last show? They can't. You can't. That was that. And great experience to be with her. And the last thing we did together was, it was wonderful. I was able to spend some time with her recently with a PBS special that we did. We're in the dressing room and talking about our times together, and with Gwen, and it was wonderful to be able to spend that time, as I think now. And she was always present, always there for everyone. So, love her. Okay, now getting very emotional. But Wicked, oh my God, still got time for Wicked. Wicked is unlike anything, any show I've ever done. It's a glorious beast of a show. Everything is moving all the time, on stage, off stage. People are working all the time on stage. You learn two shows. You learn the show on stage, and then you learn the show off stage, because there is so much going on in that enormous theater, that space. It goes 4 stories up, and I'm still trying to, see everything. It's amazing. You have to learn the choreography of where you go behind stage, because there are dressers with baskets of clothes that have this particular route at a certain time in the show, so you have to know. And in the beginning, they're so used to people. I mean, it's 20 years they know what they're doing. The crew is so used to people being replaced that they know the show so well that if you're in the wrong spot, they will gently like take you to another wing or say, just hold back here, wait till she passes. And it's been just so wonderful to be with people who are so dedicated to be there. They love the show. It's gorgeous. We have 3-4 conductors who are just brilliant musicians. I can't say, I'll tell you one thing. It's been, I think, 30 years since I've done, State Fair. I mean, we don't count the visit. When I've done 8 shows a week, and my agent called and said, you have an offer. I never heard him sound so excited. And I said, why are you yelling? And he said, for Wicked. And I went, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. But you know what? I think I have to see the show because I have to see if I can do it. And all right, I saw the show, this next matinee, and it was so gorgeous. So everybody was working 100%. I mean, there was nobody walking through anything. It was, everyone's life was so vibrant on stage, everyone. And it was so beautiful. The sound mix in the theater was perfect, not too loud. And you could hear every word. And I thought the message finally is people love it so much because of the message it delivers about friendship and love and acceptance. And I loved it, and I went, oh, I would be so proud to be in this show. And that was the beginning of my Wicked life. And I'm still there.